Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be talking all about why Czech light tanks suck inside the game, but even though they suck, they're kind of still fun, and why that's okay. And why it also shows that if Wargaming make fun mechanics inside the game, that they don't have to make a line fun by just making it overpowered, right? So Czech light tanks, they're very widely played, and I don't think it's just because Czech light tanks have gone into the game recently and everybody's just grinding their way up the tech tree. I think people just love the autocannon mechanic. It does feel, when you hold down that mouse button, it just feels great, right? To be able to pump tens if not hundreds of rounds into your opponent in a matter of seconds. The vehicle that I'm playing today, the Blesk, has the smallest gun of any of the Czech autocannons, but it carries 140 rounds inside it. Unlike its competitor, the Squall, which has a much larger caliber gun, this one I believe has got a 37mm, whereas the Squall is packing a 50mm gun. So the Squall has way better damage potential with regards to its HE rounds, because it's got so much more penetration. The Blesk, on the other hand, the HE rounds on this tank, they're very tactical. They've only got 37mm of penetration, which I guess would match the caliber of the gun. And while they're absolutely devastating, because you damage the alpha damage, you double the alpha damage of your shell from 6 to 12, meaning that your magazine potential is going to be like 1,680. I'm not stuttering, 1,680 damage potential if you're able to penetrate 37mm. But for like the vast majority of the situations in the Blesk, the HE is not actually the right choice, and you do far better to just pump out AP rounds and kind of deal more that 840 damage. Now this one, the Blesk, it actually has a 3.9 second magazine unload speed. So I think one of the biggest problems that people have with their Czech autoloaders is they kind of just get baited into just holding down the mouse button and overexposing themselves. These tanks, they look fancy, you know? When you're kind of like holding down that mouse button and unloading the mag, it's an addiction. It's very hard to stop. But when you think about it, compare this to, say, a French autoloading light tank, or a Borask, for example, which is the same tier as this tank. The Borask is delivering 360 damage instantly. Sure, it has to aim, but it delivers it instantly. And then it's a 2-second before it can deliver another 360. That's 720 in 2 seconds. This vehicle, on the other hand, it can do 840 damage, but it's going to take nearly 4 seconds to be able to do that. And so, while it's really nice for going in and finishing off multiple low-health tanks against the Progetto and against the Kalana there, the actual damage potential on this vehicle is way worse than something like a Borask. And considering that Wargaming have also made it so these Czech light tanks have a hugely lowered chance to be able to crit their opponents, and you hardly ever get fires, engine damage, ammo rack, that kind of thing, then yeah, they just feel flashy with regards to their damage output, but they're really not that flashy when you think about what their damage potential is. I feel that Wargaming, if they wanted to make these vehicles more competitive as they are, because I'll put some stats up here, but as you can see, that if I remember to, I hope I remember to, if not, check out Tomato GG, best place to be able to check out your stats of tanks in the meta. But you'll see that they're just not getting the win ratio difference, and they're not getting the damage done, even though they are meant to be damage dealers, and they're not getting the scouting done compared to other scouts as well. Now, one of the most important things with this vehicle is to realize you do have to pulse, but I'd only recommend pulsing in that kind of a situation, where you know that you can get a frag if you slow down the magazine unload. If you don't think you're going to get a frag, it's far better to just dump the magazine out and then start reloading again, because you expose yourself for less time. I think the biggest problem for people playing their Czech light tanks is they don't realize how long they're exposing themselves when they're delivering that magazine. They're instantly spotted. There's no opportunity to move, really, if you want to be able to deliver the magazine cleanly. But oh my word, look at that, 827 to the back of a Kari, from full health down to a third health, and I'm going to harass you very much, because I'm still a light tank, I've still got mobility, right? But by exposing yourself for those entire 4 seconds, you just leave yourself vulnerable to trades that you really don't want to take. And so I think the biggest thing for me, and I've played hundreds of games in Czech light tanks now, I've 3-marked the Shelma, I've 3-marked the Tier 10, the Tesak, I'm working on the Squall as well. I'll get there. But my biggest recommendation is to not get greedy with the mags. Don't expose yourself for longer than is safe. You don't have very many hit points. You definitely don't have a lot of armor. So look for the real opportunities with making flanking plays. And these tanks do wonderfully later on in the battle when the combat starts to deviate into this ugly warfare. I'm quite lucky that I actually managed to damage the engine of the XM there. Not only because I get him to whiff his repair kit, but also because it made it harder for him to be able to turn to engage me. But man, delivering those 800 damage mags to these tier 8 tank destroyers, this vehicle's a pretty wonderful counter for an XM, actually, if it's able to make the flanking plays. But then again, you know, the XM does have a turret and really good frontal armor that you can't pen, so unless you do get behind it, yeah, tough days ahead. But I have to admit, just being able to deliver that little bit of damage and then still having the mag left to think like, should we go after this XM instead? So I do 7 damage to the XM. I actually get the base defense points. I'm thinking, shall I go after him or is this LT going to come around? And unfortunately, we actually ricochet there. But you think, oh, he can't have more rounds left. So he comes around to try and get a shot. He's under pressure, right? But we still have that mag to be able to deliver it. So what you're seeing here is those one in whatever games where the Czech light tank actually not only feels fun, but the mechanics of the autocannon really useful. You saw me able to deal with the Progetto and the Kalana up on the hill in a single mag, and then dumping full mags on an XM, dumping full mags on a Kari, and then to have that kind of like intricate mag there to not only interrupt the cap and maybe get a bit of damage into the XM, but to have enough for the LT-432 afterwards. So I was a little bit nervous here about the Squall. When I went up that bump, I think it was a 7032 that spotted me, but I was worried that maybe it was a Squall in the field, which is why I was running away. But yeah, the IS-3 tries to dive on him off the cliff, I guess there, or the platform as we go into the Ghost Town map. And just like that, 6 kills in a Blesk and also 2,000 assistance as well, as we are using that full spotting build. I think this vehicle, if you're willing to use Bounty or Bond Vents, you could probably get away with dropping the coated optics and you'll definitely benefit from them. And that's the build that I use to 3-mark the Shelmer and the Tessac. These are tanks that do like to have as much crew skill as possible. So one of the most important things at this stage of the game is to ask how many hit points a vehicle who's been outside your render distance is on. Before a lot of you jump and say, oh, QB, he's on full hit points, you can tell, he was spotted. No, the hit points don't update outside the render distance. And so when I say, are you sure? It's because I'm worried that a player maybe is not taking into account that if he's outside the render distance. And if he's on low health, I can be a lot more cheeky than I can be if he's on full health in this situation. Luckily, we're defending against an assault, so we don't really need to be able to go after him here. So we can kind of just relax and see if the Borask is going to try and win the game. And I was worried he was going to be able to make his way up. So in this situation, the Borask does have enough armor to be able to take most of my HE shells, unless I get a really clean engage on him from the side or from the rear. Consequently, I'm going to be going with AP shells here. I'm worried he's going to be coming from above, but as I see he's in the town, I'm thinking, should I go after him? And after he whiffs a shell, I feel safe. And you know what? Let's just try and have a gigantic game of World of Tanks. We're already up to nearly 6,000 combined, which is massive for any tier 8 light tank, but especially massive for the Blesk. And so we're going to go in and hopefully have a full HE mag. So it looks like the Progetto manages to put one shot in, or maybe that was an ultra low roll there from the IS-3. And just, where's this Borask? I think he's going to be on my left, right? He's got to be on my left, surely. Oh my lord, no, he's not. Okay, clutch shots, clutch shots, clutch shots, clutch shots. And that's my final tip for Czech autocannons. Don't over zoom. Even when you're engaging tanks at long range, you're not trying to hit pinpoint snipes at their weak points. You haven't got the module damage to do that, really. It's more about just getting the reticle and focusing on the lead that you have to give to the target. Just use the 2x zoom, even at great distance, at most like a 4x zoom at great distance against a moving target. Of course, if they're stationary, you can go for the full zoom if you want to, if that will help you to really get over the middle of the target. But don't over zoom in these vehicles, because you can see the tracers, you can adjust how you're moving your mouse and you're tracking the target, and that will allow you to deliver more accurate shots quicker. And boom, baby, what was that? Over like 900 damage to the Borask. in that matter of seconds. Man, when those HE shells work, they work. In fact, let's watch that again in slow-mo. Because you know what? There is some delicious, delicious moment of where a tech tree tank really goes to town on the back of a overpowered French premium and is just stacking up that damage. Look at those HE pens on the back. Unfortunately, when he's going to turn to the side, you're going to see that the damage is going to start to dip there. We see a gold round fired there. We can tell from the shell tracer doesn't manage to go in, and just a bit of adjustment there. A couple of bad shots by me, but enough to still get the job done in a single mag. Honestly, for moments like that, yeah, nothing feels like a Czech light tank. And so while these vehicles are clearly awful, the Tesac has by far the worst win ratio of any of the tier 10 lights. The Shelm is not performing at tier 9, the Squall isn't performing as a premium, and the Blesk really isn't performing as a tier 8 light because they have to meet better scouts and they have that instant damage with guns, which works until you've spent a long time playing and you really start to get good in the vehicles. But even after 3 marking the Tesac, I'm still only getting like a mid-50s win ratio, which is well below my average of probably about 60-61 as to what I achieve in my light tanks at tier 10. But man, when they work, they work. 1,765 base experience. That's the second highest of anyone that's uploaded a Blesk game on the What Record website, and 7,000 combined with 4,700 damage in this battle, and we had to drive 5 kilometers to be able to do so. And you know one of the best things about these vehicles is they don't have gold rounds. All of the rounds cost pretty much the same price, and so no matter how badly you want to gold spam in these vehicles, you're still going to make a profit. Which actually means that the Czech light tanks have by far the lowest ammo costs across the board of any tanks in the game. So if you're not the kind of player who really only plays the game to win, and you want to have a little bit of fun, or you want to play the game economically, then you know what, Czech light tanks might be the thing for you. I'm not saying that they're going to be amazing in all scenarios, but when you figure out how they work, and hopefully some of the tips in this video will help you, boy, do they feel great. And I think what this line shows is that not every line that goes into the game has to be overpowered inside World of Tanks. Wargaming can clearly put in fun mechanics that, at least for me, feel great, and I keep coming back and wanting to play more Czech light tanks, even though I do feel that I'm maybe putting my team at just a tiny little disadvantage when I sign up in them. And so, despite the stats, the Czech lights get a massive thumbs up from me to Wargaming for how they've implemented them into the game. And I hope with more future lines that they find ways to make them not only fun, but hopefully just competitive as well. But they never want to be overpowered and fun at the same time, because that's when we have possible meta-breaking lines going into the game. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know what you think about the Czech lights in the comments down below. Do you think they're absolutely atrocious, or are they bad at winning games, but also fun when you're playing them? And if you're watching this video as it's released on Friday, I'm going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby with the final drop tokens. And so if you've managed to get any of these from any of my streams over the last 6 weeks, they will disappear from your account on Monday. So make sure you spend them. Use them on whatever you're going to be able to get your hands on. And once again, a massive thank you to Wargaming for enabling me to give out literally tens of thousands of tier 7 premium tanks for free over the last 6 weeks. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.